So, it's Ray. I'm going to show you a few things about Unity. Apparently, because I'm so smart, I didn't record any audio on my last one, so I have a few objects sitting here. But anyway, I'm just going to show you the basics, and just so you can get started with Unity. There's nothing actually related to making games. I'm just going to show you how to get around the program, the very, very basics, so you can pick it up and start going. So the first thing I want to show you is the keys. I can actually show you. I'm just going to tell you. Alt plus left click is pan, just like in Max, or sorry, in Maya. This is going to be very similar to Max and Maya. A lot of the controls are very similar. And then you have Alt middle click. Again, you're only using Alt, you're not using Control like you would in Max. So Alt middle click is your your scroll. And if it looks a little slow, it's just because of the video recording. It'll be smoother when you do it. And then Alt right click is your dolly slash zoom. So again, you can get further away, move in closer, etc., etc. And then when you actually want to manipulate this with the handles, this is again very similar to Max and Maya. You can change your perspective. So here you actually have the perspective view. You can change it to Y. So this is top. You can change it, I think this is front, or sorry, right, front, left, back, bottom, and you can click in the middle here to always go back to your perspective view. And there you go. Now another thing is manipulating objects. Now you won't be doing really any modeling inside of Unity, because it's not really meant for modeling. You'll most likely be importing your assets from another program like Max or Maya. But the objects you do have in here, you manipulate them the same way you would in Max and Maya. W is for translate slash move, the same thing. You grab the handles and you move it along that axis. So if I want to move it along the X axis, I grab the red handle. There we go, same with the Y. And if you grab it in the middle, you can move it freely in all directions. Now this is a little tricky in perspective because you can't actually tell very easily if it's moving backwards in space or whatever, but you can always put it in top view, move it freely, and then you know it's only going in the Z and X. It's not going to be moving in and out in 3D space. And then you have your E key, which is the rotate hotkey. You just grab the handles here and you can rotate it, and then you can grab it outside of the handles, like inside of here, and that's free rotate. And then R is resize. Again, you grab the handles, or you can grab the middle, and that'll resize it uniformly. So all the directions are the same, so it's to scale. And then you'll notice here when I was doing these changes, these numbers were changing. Now this is the inspector window. I'm not going to go over into hierarchy or project, but in the inspector window, this has all the attributes of whatever object you have selected. So I have the camera here, and here's my cube. Here's its position in the world. Here's its rotation. It's set to 0, 0, 0, but if I change it along the X, it will rotate. Or I can rotate 90 degrees on Y. Actually, you can't see that. 45. Or you can scale it. Let's say I want to make it 5 times bigger on the Y, so it's going to get taller. Do it like that. And then here in the inspector window, you also have the material. This is going to be all the attributes, but down here at the very bottom, by default, you have your materials. So if you choose materials here, you expand this. If it's closed, you just click on this arrow to bring it down. Same with any of these. Then you see here that it has a default diffuse. This is like your Lambert 1 in Maya. It's just the default material that's there as a placeholder. If you click on this little circle here, it brings up the materials you have brought in as assets in your scene. Now because this is the demo that came with Unity, you'll notice it's full of all kinds of different things. Generally this will be empty unless you put something in there, but Unity comes with this demo, so if you open up the demo, you'll have access to these. Some of these look really cool just because of the way they're not really meant to be used this way, so kind of weird. But let's say I grab, this is fine, the port B, whatever that is. Okay, and apply it. So now this has a material on it. Now, this is by default set to textured. This would be, I think, your 6 key on Maya. But you can just click here and change that to wireframe if you just want to see the outlines. Texture plus wire, so you can see the outlines, and it'll actually look through the object, which is another neat thing for the basic edges. And then these we won't really get into till later on. Generally, I use textured just because it's nice and easy to see, and when you select it, it comes up anyway. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, okay. Again, going on with, like in Maya, you have 7, which I believe is lighting. I could be wrong, but it's one of those keys, 6 or 7. You turn on lighting, and you see here, it's a little monotonous looking. There's no shadows or anything. And that's actually not the best example. Let me show you here with a cube. Let's say make a cube here. It's just an outline. There's actually no 3D depth to this because of the lighting. Because there's no lights in here. So I turned on lighting, but there aren't any lights. When I turn it off, this is just the default viewport lighting, but this isn't going to show up in the game. And you'll see here if I throw in a light, like a point light or whatever. So now you see I can actually see something. If I get rid of the light again, it's going to be an outline. Create a light. Whoop. And there it is. I can move this light, and you'll see how it reacts. I'm going to turn that off for now. Then you have your grid. You can turn that off. This is actually the terrain as well. And then sounds, which again, we're not going to get into that at this point, but later on this is where it's at. And another few things is you can change things either according to the center of the object or the pivot. In this case it's the same, the pivot is in the center of the object, but if you did change the pivot, you can move it by pivot or center. And then you can set this to the manipulation to either global or local. What that means is, globally, in the world, there's up, there's down, there's left, there's right. That doesn't change. But for your object, say it was rotated like this. Now its local up is up, or sorry, its global up is up because that's just the way it is. But for this object, up is actually heading kind of like in an angle out to space. So if I put that to local, this is up for this object, even though it's not up in the world. So you can manipulate it that way, and then just make sure you know which one you're working in, because if you see it going off to the side, you can make stuff align it incorrectly. Anyway, lastly, you'll notice these buttons here. This one says game, and this one says scene. Scene is just what you're working with. Game is actual game. Now I can't do anything. I can't move. I can't shoot. I can do anything. This isn't a game yet, really. It's just some boxes sitting in space. But once you get a game going, you can just switch to it in real time like that, and it shows you what's going on. And if you hit the play button, you can actually play the game. Again, there's no game to be played here, but this is what it would look like if it were an actual game. Always remember to turn this off when you're done with play mode, because if you go to make a change, say you are, let's choose my cube here. My cube has, okay, scale of 1, 1, 1. If I go to play, and let's say I'm not happy with the size of my cube, so I make it taller, I think, okay, great, we can move on. I turn this off, and nothing happened. So that's just for preview purposes. Make sure this is off, then make the change, and that makes it permanent. So when you go in the game, there it is, you go back, there it is, same size. And that about wraps it up for now. I'm going to get into these different windows and all of the different options as a little bit later, but for now this is enough to get started with Unity. Maybe import some of your models in here. Actually, I haven't shown you how to do that, so never mind. But you can just create some objects here real quick. You go to Game Object, Create Other. Just worry about these for now. I'll go over the other ones at some other time. But you can just throw in some different shapes and play and move them around, see what they look like. And that's it for now. Thank you.